Hi, everybody. I'm Julie Roginsky. Welcome to FoxNews.com's continuing coverage of the Republican National Convention. I'm here with Stephen Moore, who is a Fox News contributor and an economics advisor to the Trump campaign. Welcome.
Hi, Julie. Good to see you.
Great to see you. So tell me, first of all, I asked you this question offline, but I'll ask you again. You're consulting Donald Trump. Donald Trump is saying, yes, I want to hear what you have to say. 80% of the time, 100% of the time?
Well, I am not Donald Trump, and he's got a lot of advisors, right. But, the two or three that, have been very involved in his tax plan have been myself and Larry Kudlow, an economist in New York, and then Art Laffer, who was Ronald Reagan's chief economist. And we could put together a pretty good tax plan. I think conservatives especially and Republican voters are going to really like it. It's probably the biggest tax cut since Ronald Reagan entered office. It's going to ease the burden on the middle class. It's going to be very pro-business in terms of making American business taxes more competitive. That's sort of the heart of the economic plan.
Short of telling me that trickle-down economics is somehow going to plug this budget hole because of the great amount of revenue it's going to collect through lower taxes, how are you going to balance the budget if you're cutting taxes?
So it is true that we think we can grow the economy a lot faster, in part by improving the tax system. I mean, our tax system, Julie, is just god-awful. It is. I bet you and I could sit down and come up with something a lot more rational than we have now. We have the highest business taxes in the world, and that has led to some of our iconic American companies like Burger King and Medtronic and Pfizer and other companies to leave the United States. That's a problem because when they leave, they take jobs with them. Our attitude is why not have a tax code that actually makes companies want to come here rather than want to leave here. And, you can call that trickle-down economics, but if you get those jobs back and those businesses back, they're going to start, paying taxes here. Now, it's going to be a 15% rate, but my point to you, Julie, would be, what's 35% of zero? It's zero.
All right, but here's my question to you. So Art Laffer's been at this now since the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan essentially ran in the Laffer curve.
Yeah.
Reagan, to some extent, I think, did a lot of what you talked about.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, Reagan was forced to raise taxes, not once, not twice, but I believe at least 17 times. When this is tried, and this has been tried before, I've never seen anybody consistently, incredibly be able to tell me that despite cutting taxes, George Bush tried it, Ronald Reagan tried it.
Yep.
How do you balance the budget, and how do you cut the deficit that way?
Well, first of all, we cut spending and we grow the economy. But let's go back to Reagan. I mean, it is true Reagan cut taxes pretty substantially. I mean, back then we had a 70% tax rate, and by the time he left office, his tax rate went from 70 down to 28%. Now, here's the thing.
And a huge imbalanced budget.
So that we had big deficits back then, but the economy boomed, in the 80s. I mean, we had one of the biggest expansions. In fact, the economy grew twice as fast under Reagan as it has under Obama. But the other thing that happened in the 80s, just to defend the Gipper for a minute, we had a big military buildup to win the Cold War. So, my feeling about deficits is, if you could borrow to rebuild the American economy and to win the Cold War, that's a pretty good reason to borrow. My problem with the last 8 years, we borrowed, $8 trillion, and what have we gotten for it? We've gotten a lousy economy. Our military has been hollowed out. And so I don't see any return to the Obama deficits. But to go back to Trump for a minute, Trump has made it clear, balancing the budget and actually even starting to retire some of this debt is a big priority for him. So you're going to have to. What I didn't tell you is we're also going to get rid of a lot of loopholes in the tax system.
Okay.
And that's going to do something.
It's going to do something, but if you're telling me right now it's almost impossible to do what you want to do and balance the budget. Or it is possible, but how?
Okay, so we're going to get rid of a lot of the loopholes. Which
ones?
We're going to get, for high-income individuals, people who make over, say, $500,000, they're going to lose their deductions. And most of the deductions
Mortgage deduction, the whole thing? Everything?
Everything goes away.
Charitable?
We're still debating that one.
Okay.
Right. We haven't decided that one. Okay.
Just want to make sure.
But so we're going to take away those deductions. We're going to grow the economy. We think we can get 1% higher growth, and that's going to lower the deficit by about $2 trillion over 10 years.
How are you going to do that?
Through tax reform, through a pro-American energy policy, and so on. And then we're going to cut spending. We're going to cut spending. We're going to really go after a lot of the waste in the budget. We're going to replace Obamacare with something that actually can reduce health care costs.
Like what? Do you guys have specifics on that?
I'm not the health care expert for Trump, but we're looking at something that is much more consumer-oriented, so consumers could choose from a number of plans. And we're going to get rid of the mandated benefit formula under Obamacare that requires everybody to buy the same 30 services. We're going to borrow an idea from John Kasich, and we're going to block grant a lot of programs, you know, like health care, welfare, transportation. Send that money to the states and let them figure out the best way to spend it. That saves money. So there's a lot of ways you can save money.
So you're just shifting. That sounds to me like you're shifting the burden to the states.
Yeah, well, what we're going to say to these states is we'll give you 80 cents on the dollar, which we're going to give you huge amounts of flexibility in how you spend that money. And, you know, it's interesting. A lot of the governors will say, I'll take that deal in a heartbeat, including John Kasich.
And so, well, I'm sure he would. But so my question, though.
We might even get some Democratic governors to go
for that. We'll see about that. But my question, you know, you keep saying, for example, Reagan expanded the military and won the Cold War. I know you're not the foreign policy expert on this campaign. I know you're certainly not the defense expert on this campaign, but I do hear Donald Trump talking about how we're going to defeat ISIS, we're going to crush them. That, to me, implies a tremendous amount of military spending.
Maybe.
And so you're now talking about expanding the military. You're not talking about drastically cutting taxes, and you're talking about balancing the budget.
Okay. So let me give you, you know, so we spend about $500 to $600 billion a year on our military. So we spend a lot. My own attitude, and I think Trump to some extent, you know, shares this, is he's talked about ways you could cut military spending. So, for example, you know, we do spend, you know, tens of billions of dollars a year on NATO. And he's basically said, well, NATO should pay a lot more for its own defense. I mean, and I completely, this isn't 1950 anymore. Right. This is 2000. I think you would probably even agree with that.
Well, I'm a little concerned about the fact that Vladimir Putin, and we had Ambassador John Bolton here yesterday talking about the fact that you've got Putin potentially threatening NATO allies in the Baltics. You're going to tell Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania that they're on their own?
Julie, that the United States of America should have to, American taxpayers should have to spend tens and tens of billions of dollars defending Europe when Europe has the resources to defend themselves?
I'm trying to reconcile how we keep talking about American leadership and how America has to lead. At the same time, you've got John Bolton, who's certainly not a Hillary Clinton supporter.
There's nobody I respect more than John Bolton.
Saying that we need to potentially have tanks, NATO tanks, including American tanks.
Guys, to let NATO pay for it.
But wait a second.
Let the Europeans,
I got it.
Let Germany and France and Italy and Spain
Well, first of all, Italy, Spain.
And I'll bet a lot of Democratic voters agree with us on that.
They may, but you're also talking about having Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, who are actually being threatened right now, potentially Poland pay for it. So you're basically telling the Baltics you're paying for it, in which case they're kind of on their own. And for better or worse, we are signaling to Vladimir Putin that we're abdicating.
I'll tell you how we're
going
to put the hurt to Putin. You want to know how we're going to hurt Putin? We're going to produce so much natural gas in this country.
We already have tons of natural gas in this country.
I know, but we're going to start exporting it. We don't export our natural gas. No, we can do this. We build LNG terminals. How does Putin get his money? He gets a huge amount of it from his energy. We can become the #1 producer of energy for Europe. And by the way, that means not going along with, you know, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton's green agenda.
But isn't there a glut on the natural gas market already worldwide right now?
Yeah, but our natural gas prices are way lower. So in the United States, natural gas is $2. It's like $10 in Europe. We can export it and export. You know, we can.
No, that's fine. Look,
so anyway, that's a bit. You know, and by the way, the person who's most in favor of you know, the Hillary Clinton green agenda is Putin, because if we don't use our natural gas and coal, he gets to, you know, ship this stuff to.
No, but we've got. I mean, it strikes me that on the worldwide market, right, we've got record low prices.
And why is that, by the way?
Well, because of fracking here in the States.
Yes,
and
thank you.
Okay, so we're already doing it.
Yes.
So we don't. You can
but
say
we're not exporting it. That's
we're exporting oil. Listen, we're exporting a lot.
Not much.
We're a net exporter now. You have to concede, right?
No, not of oil. And we should be exporting. The reason we're not exporting our natural gas is mostly because. And by the way, as of a year ago, we had to twist Barack Obama's arm. Remember that, Julie? To get him to agree to export. For the first time, we got rid of the export ban. He did it. But we had to twist his arm to do it.
No, that's fine. Twist or not twist it. But the point is how it's
now we can export our natural gas. That's a good thing.
But how it's affected world energy markets is. You will concede that energy. No, but energy markets right now are already reflective of really low energy prices. So how much money we're going to be able to make on this right now in this environment?
Well, I'm not making a point about raising. We can raise money on it, but what we can also do is we can make Europe less dependent on Putin. Because I agree with you, Putin's a bad guy, and we can make, you know, they can get their natural gas from North Dakota and Oklahoma and Texas rather than getting it from Siberia.
Listen, but by the time these LNG terminals are up and running,
we can do
we're going to be talking about the third Trump administration. I don't know.
I know that's your worst nightmare.
The Ivanka Trump administration. I don't know what's going on here. It is so great to have you here. Thank you so much for talking to us.
We're going to make America great again.
I can't wait to see how that happens. All right. Thanks very much. Bye.
Take care.